So we're going to teach you what works. So I'm sitting here today with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So Bridget, who heads up, she's the vice president at the AMS team, heads up the illustration and preparation team, as well as running the office there in Coeur d'Alene. Bridget is not 60 years old, and she is not Mr. Smith. But we're going to simulate this because this is a realistic situation that we can encounter, be it a final expense or a mortgage protection scenario. So Bridget is 60. Bridget, your wife is, you're Mr. Smith. Mrs. Smith is how old?
55.
55 years old. So I'm sitting down on a mortgage protection appointment with a 60-year-old and a 55-year-old spouse, male and female. And I'm going to simulate how we're going to shift from a mortgage protection as we take care of that and pivot into asking the local question. So, Mr. Smith, thank you for sitting down with me today. My job as a field underwriter is to go through and ask you some questions, find out what solutions would be best for you and that you should be approved for. And then we're going to fill out a request for approval and see if we can get that to the underwriters and that they'll agree with my findings. And then hopefully if everything's good, we'll have you protected before we leave here today. That protection will stay. So I'm going to go ahead and proceed with my my mortgage protection sale. Let's say it's the Americo HMS 125 cashback CBO. The concept, no matter what you're selling, be it final expense or mortgage protection, is that we want to use some form of financial inventory. Now, on the website, or if you email info@fflams.com, we can send you a financial inventory that I think is originally Matt Smith used years ago. He's the one that taught me how to use it. And then I used it, and I know Linda Lampasso and a bunch of people have done a lot of good things using this financial inventory to find other opportunities. Whatever version of the financial inventory you use, or if you're just flipping over the piece of paper and asking questions, there are certain essential questions you have to ask, such as their health, right? Which it wouldn't make any sense if I didn't ask you if you were taking medications if I'm trying to get you approved for a life insurance policy. So I'm going to ask about health. I'm going to ask her about the mortgage, what term it is, what the payment is. I'm going to ask her about income. I'm going to ask income for her spouse, Mrs. Smith. But I'm also going to ask this question. Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, do you have any life insurance, be it whole life or term, in place that you own? Not company-owned life insurance, insurance that you own.
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's what we're here for. Yep.
Perfect. So I'm asking that question, agnostic of the annuity or the IUL. I'm asking that question because you need to ask the question if you're going to help protect them with life insurance. Because I made that mistake many, many times early in my career. I would give my presentation, and then they'd say, well, let me compare it to what I have, or I already have insurance, right? So we got to ask a question. And that question spawns the golden question. So right behind the question I just asked about their current or incumbent life insurance policy, I'm going to ask the golden question. Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, do you have anything that acts like insurance, such as a 401k, an IRA, or an annuity, something that would transfer probate-free to the other spouse if you were to die?
Yeah, we have a savings account that we set aside for that a little bit, and then I have an old IRA from an old job for $200,000.
Okay, great. Now right there, I'm going to pause. I'm going to make note that Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith have $200,000. It's an IRA in Mr. Smith's name. Now I don't derail this entire mortgage protection. I continue to go and help them, but I've made a note to it, and I'm going to come back at the end. So we've wrapped up the policy, Mr. Smith. We've got everything set off. It's being an e-app with America. It's approved instantaneously. I'm going to get paid 24 hours. They're protected right on the spot. But then I'm going to pause. And I like to do it in a way that I'm a bit busy, okay? And notice something that's very, very important, right, Bridget? We have a lot of agents who don't want to present because they're scared they don't know enough.
Right.
What I do next, I don't need to know anything. Okay? I'm going to ask, Mr. Smith, in regards to that IRA or that 401k that you had, or that you currently have, $200,000, if the market were to have a downturn, would it affect you at all?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, we specialize in retirement income planning and protecting people's retirement assets. Now, I like to use the quadrille. That's why we invented it. The quadrille can be found at fflams.com or by emailing info@fflams.com. It is personalized. It has your picture, your logo, your contact information. However, you don't actually need it. I think it's a great tool. We've invented this for a reason. You can purchase them online, digitally printed with all your information, or you can download a generic one. It really doesn't matter. But I want to be able to offer something in order to get what I need to send to the AMS team so I can provide a solution. So I've asked them, I've said, if the market were to have a downturn, would it affect you at all? And Mr. Smith said yes, so I'm going to play off that. Well, we specialize in retirement income planning and guaranteed safe growth, okay? We do something called an FIA, or fixed index annuity. Now, for a little side training, sometimes people with annuities, their face will look like, oh, I don't want an annuity. But I explain to them if that happens. I say, now you hear the term annuity. This is not your dad's annuity. This is something that's rather new since 1994, and it's the fastest growing retirement tool in the United States today for a reason. It's an annuity because it is in a tax-deferred wrapper, all right? But what it does is harness the power of indexing. And I'm going to ask Mr. Smith, I'm going to say, Mr. Smith, if we look at these retirement challenges right here, which of these are stressing you out the most? Now, in these retirement challenges, you're going to see outliving your money, healthcare, inflation, leaving a legacy. And outliving the money can be not just you, but for your spouse also. Avoiding market downturns, right? If Mr. Smith is 60 years old, he's getting ready for retirement, and I'll ask this to clients. I'll say, if you're planning to live another 30 years, Mr. Smith, is there any chance that if we look backwards 30 years, from now to 1980, that you would encounter any of those same problems? Think about it. Over 30 years, how many market downturns were there? How many dot-com bubble busts were there? How many banking crises were there? Oil embargoes, inflation problems. There were so many things that happened in the last 30 years. Do we really think it's going to be smooth sailing for the next 3 decades? Absolutely not. So we got to prepare ourselves, because Mr. Smith, we're no longer putting money into that account. We're having to take money out. So of these retirement challenges, which of them is stressing you out the most?
Yeah, I would say the top two are outliving your money. I just want to make sure we can afford to retire, and then avoiding market downturns, because we can't lose that money. We need to live on it.
Absolutely. And that's a very common response, okay? So whether you have this or not, we're going to ask them, would a market downturn affect your retirement? And we specialize in protecting people's assets, providing lifetime income, safe growth, etc. And obviously Mr. Smith's concerned because Mrs. Smith is female, going to live longer statistically, and 5 years younger. So we got to provide a solution. Now notice, I am not an expert in anything. I didn't provide a product. I didn't enlighten them on anything. I just simply said, which of these retirement challenges concern you most? That's it. Now here's what I do. I offer up this quadfold. I say, Mr. Smith, why don't you and Mrs. Smith take a read on that? It's very easy to read. Write down any questions you have. Do you have a statement, a recent one, or even one that's a year old? It doesn't really matter. I just want to get an idea. We have a home office that specializes in it. They're all licensed. They know what they're doing. They have all these certifications. And they're going to help me come up with a plan that best resolves the concerns you have. And let's see, it's Tuesday right now. I'll come back on Friday and sit down with you and go over what the findings are and see if it makes sense for you. Fair enough?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
Great.
Here's my most recent statement.
So now, I've given and I've gotten, okay? I have a statement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the FFLAMS.com team, and I'm going to do what's called Ask a Specialist. So we're going to come away now and see what the results are and how the Ask a Specialist works.
Hey Sean, thanks for your Ask a Specialist request on FFLAMS.com. I've gone ahead and run the Agility 10 illustration for your clients. Based on their need of joint lifetime income, this should be great for them. The Agility 10 provides lifetime income starting in year 10, so what I've shown is RMDs starting at age 75. Don't forget to use the e-app and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.
So we have our illustrations, we have our education, we have our direction. In this situation, Lauren has suggested the Agility 10, and I'm going to go ahead and illustrate that. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the quad fold, whether you have just a printout that you downloaded to a free PDF, or if you printed some out that have your face and contact information. And I'm going to explain the very basics, okay? So I'm going to explain to Mr. and Mrs. Smith the power of indexing. And I'm going to explain to them that, listen, how this works is that these are designed to protect you from market downturns and eliminate fees, all right? They're not designed to beat the market. So if the market goes up, let's say 10%, okay, and this is an index like the S&P 500, then you're going to participate, let's say 5%, okay? But with these locked-in gains, if the market does go down, in this illustration, as it has before, 2009, 2001, etc., if the market goes down, say 20%, you lose nothing. Your money holds at that original 5% gain. Now, what happens, Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, when the market tanks? Eventually, what happens? It goes back up, and usually comes back pretty aggressively. You'll never participate in the down, but you will participate in that upside. So let's say the market comes back 20% and you get, for instance, 10%. Some of that you participate in. That 10% is on the top of the 5% that you never lost because you are insulated from the losses and your gains are always protected and locked in. So I explained the power of indexing. That is what an FIA is. And I asked them, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? So the FIA that the team, that corporate picked out, and one of the reasons I say that is because if you're brand new, you might be a little hesitant to say the one I picked out.
Yeah.
So say the team at corporate who specializes in this and wants to put people in the absolute best situation, they picked out something called the Agility 10 from a company called Athene. Now all I say about it is this. I say Athene is an A-rated carrier that is registered as a legal reserve entity in this state. So they're registered and guaranteed in this state. Now, I go to the 0% illustration. It's one of the first things you see. And I explain to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the guarantee on this product is that you will have no fees and that you will never lose any money. So this first illustration here is showing you 0%, and I highlight that 0%. Now that 0% is there because if the market went down every month, every year, for the rest of your lives, which could be 30 or 40 years, you won't lose any money. Now, you won't gain any money, but you won't lose any money. And by law, I have to disclose that to you. Now, I don't want to waste your time or mine, so unless you have any questions, I don't think we should spend too much time on something that's probably not going to happen. But if it does happen, you're probably thankful that you had your money in something like this. Does that make sense? Right? So I've explained the 0%. I've told them that this is what the guarantee is, and I've asked them if it makes sense, but I've also done it in a way that we don't want to drill down and spend a lot of time talking about the market going down every month, every year for the next 30 years. If that was their concern, they should buy a fixed annuity, right? But that's really not anyone's concern as we approach this. Now I'm going to go into the illustrations that show the back cast of the turn, all right? It shows the hypothetical using the most recent 10 years. So I say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is a more realistic explanation of what you can expect, okay? In this one, it is illustrated at 4.36%, okay? Now, that 4.36%, you might have heard the market goes up 7% a year or whatever it might be, maybe 8% I've heard if you include dividends. I've told you before, we aren't there to beat the market, we're there to participate. So the market you'll never beat the market in any one given year that it goes up. But if the market goes down, say 20%, you'll never participate in that. So in certain years, in certain stretches, you will beat the market. But that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to safely grow and protect your money. But this annuity has something a little different. And this annuity, Bridget, as you know, is exclusive to Athene. It's one of the reasons we want to highlight it, this agility product. But it has something called a benefit base. So you have the cash, it has no fees, it's going to grow at an average of 4.5% per year. But the benefit base is a separate column that's used to calculate lifetime income for you and Mrs. Smith, or death benefit for you, Mrs. Smith, or your children. So this benefit base gets a 20% bonus day one. So it's not $220,000 or not $200,000, it's actually $240,000. And it's going to grow not at 4.5%, but 175% index, so closer to 7%. That's how the specialty product works. Does it sound too good to be true? It's not. There's a couple things you need to be understanding, but it's a powerful product. It's an award-winning product for a reason, because it's benefit based, which your concern, Mr. Smith, was making sure you have enough income for life. This benefit base is what's going to grow as long as it's used for income or death benefit, which is exactly what you've saved up that 401k for, correct?
Yes.
Great. So when we look at this benefit base growing at 175% of the assumed interest rate, at age 72, you see how we have some withdrawals coming out, $13,000? Okay, that's what's called your required minimum distributions. So since this is qualified money, believe me, all this will be prepared for you, and you have an understanding of why you're doing it. The government, the IRS, requires that at age 72, you take some money out. So they will automatically calculate it for you, send you a letter, and you send you a check, and then you pay taxes on that money. But then at age 75 for you, 70 for Mrs. Smith, we're just picking that. You can do whatever age you want, so long as it's 10 years after the annuity starts. At that point, you're going to have a lifetime income benefit. So using that benefit base, we're going to tap into it, and we're going to start paying out a lifetime income benefit. And that income benefit is estimated to be just over $23,000 that first year. And here's the cool thing about the agility product, the one that I've presented right here. Every year after you turn the benefit, if the index continues to go up, your payment continues to go up. How cool is that? So Mr. Smith, as inflation continues to eat at your purchasing power, as healthcare costs rise, you are protected. Because at $23,000, by the time you're 82, it's now $33,000. And if we move forward here, by the time you're, let's say, 90, it's now grown to almost $47,000. Now, by 90 years old, Mr. Smith, there's a decent chance that you'll have passed. But Mrs. Smith is still 85. She could very easily live for another 5 or even 10 years. And notice by the end of the contract, on the end of the illustrations, this will go in perpetuity, meaning it will never end until you end. It doesn't expire until you expire. But in 2055, it's hard to believe that will come. In 2055, Mrs. Smith is still just 90 years old. Her income that year would be $55,000, and you all would have taken out a total of $789,000 off of something that was originally $200,000, and you never paid any fees, and you never were subject to any market loss. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So that's why I chose this product, and I'm solving their main concern, which is having income and having money for healthcare costs, okay, with the Agility product. Now, the last thing I want to do is I want to explain something, and I do it like this. I say, my mother always told me that if something's too good to be true, then it's not true. Well, this sounds pretty good, right? You get a 20% bonus on that benefit base. You will always participate in the upside, you'll never participate in the downside, and there are no fees. The catch is this. The catch is that there's something called a surrender schedule. So if I show you this schedule here, you'll see there's a 10-year surrender schedule with these percentages underneath it. What this means, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith, is that you're allowed to take out 10% any given year, or take out your lifetime income benefit, okay? You just can't take out more than 10% or whatever the lifetime income benefit is. If you do anything in excess of that, you'll be penalized this percentage. So let's say 10% is $20,000, okay? You can take out $20,000, but if you took another $1,000 out, $21,000, you would lose $90 of it, or 9%. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then each year that declines. So by the time you're at year 9, year 10, it's only 2%, 1%, meaning that if you took out an additional $1,000, $21,000, then you would lose $20 or $10. Now, not a severe penalty, but here's one teaching point. This is qualified money. This money is dedicated to pay you off for life. So hopefully the lifetime income, the RMDs, there may be some withdrawals for fixing a car or doing something on the house. That 10% is enough. Anything beyond that, you don't want to raise your tax footprint too much, because anything you take out will be taxed. But there is a surrender schedule on that. Does it make sense? And that's how they balance all these great product offerings they can make. They do it with the ability to know that they're going to be able to hold your money long term.
And so after 10 years, that goes away.
Correct.
All right.
After 10 years, there's no surrender schedule whatsoever. You can move the product if you're not satisfied, or you can take out in excess of 10% if you so chose.
And if I pass away, does my beneficiary pay this penalty?
That's a great question. If you die, or if you are in need of terminal illness or critical illness, in any three of those situations, the surrender schedule is waived, which I think is fantastic, because when would we need to take out more than $20,000 in one given year?
Right.
If something extreme was happening, or if we died. So great question, Mr. Smith. The answer is no, that wouldn't apply.
Okay, thank you.
So at this point, there's an e-application which we recommend. There is a link specific to Family First Life, Bridget, right? The FFL logo on it. That allows that your application can go to our department, that we can review it, and then we can push it through faster than just sending it through the normal e-application. So if you need that e-application, go ahead and email us, info@fflams.com. Otherwise, we'll make you aware of it when we send out your scenario. So there you go. We did an in-home, we asked the golden question, we went to Ask a Specialist, we became an expert on that scenario, and we went and pitched it and wrote up the e-app. So hope that helps. Looking forward to helping you more for the 2021 year.